Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Back on Track, where today we are taking a look at the Wiesel TOW. The Wiesel has always been, historically, the most toxic vehicle in the game. Now the ATGM changes came in, and I would go as far as saying that no vehicle has been altered as much as the Wiesel has. Prior to the minimum arm distance changes, we had the ram changes, the ram damage changes, which meant that the Wiesel couldn't just slam itself into the side of any enemy vehicle and get away with it. That was enough to upset some people. I don't understand why, personally, but it did. Now we have the minimum arm distance, which means that the Wiesel can now no longer shotgun like it used to. This thing used to be an absolute menace. It used to be a really toxic piece of excrement. But now it fills the role that it was intended to fill from the very beginning. It now fills the role of a tank destroyer. And what you're seeing me do right here is an example of exactly that. It has amazing concealment. It's very, very small. It's difficult to see, which means that utilizing it exactly like this is what you're meant to do with it. This is what you were always meant to do with it. It was never meant to be a one-man army. It was never meant to be that. So the Wiesel's minimum arm distance is in the 65 meter category, which, in my opinion, I feel that's I've said this before, I feel that's a little too close. I don't think it needs to be 100 meters though. That's too far. I do think that 65 meters is a little bit close. I think it needs to be more like 75, 80 meters. I think we need more arming distance ranges. Just having 65 meters or 100, I don't think is the best way of approaching ATGMs in this game. But hey, just my opinion. So the Wiesel is now what it always should have been, and I got too close there to a friendly, and you can hear when the ATGM doesn't impact like it should. It makes a sort of crunchy sound. But yes, the Wiesel now fits the role that it always should have fitted. I started off by playing very, very sneaky, which is you're essentially a passive scout. You're just sitting there waiting for people to drive past, and that's fine in my opinion. That's what a small vehicle would do. That's what a small reconnaissance vehicle would do. That fits the role very, very well. What I'm doing right now is I'm probably playing it a little bit more like the traditional Wiesel player would play it. I'm being a lot more active. I'm moving around a heck of a lot more. But the only difference now is you've got to be aware of the arming distance. You've got to be aware of the 65 meters, which makes combat situations like this a little awkward. Now, this Wiesel doesn't know I'm here. And I got too close, and as you can see, I only did 320. I didn't see exact number there, but 320 something. I had the time there to stop and actually do a full damage shot on that Wiesel. He missed. But it does make this kind of engagement with... It makes Wiesel versus Wiesel engagements awkward. A lot harder than they used to be. And at this point, I'm just ignoring the Wiesel behind. He's chasing me. I'm just completely ignoring it because I'm like that. I'm working on the assumption that even if he does hit me with an ATGM, it'll bounce because Lord knows why the bounce mechanics for the Wiesel and just ATGMs in general are just so ballsed up in this game. I'm just working on the assumption that he's not going to hit me. I'd say 90% of the time, a shot like that is going to miss. And even if it does hit you, 300 damage or a bounce, we can handle that. So that's my approach so far. I'm playing it. I use this analogy with the BMP-1. If previously you were playing the Weasel at 100%, I'd say you need to dial it in, and I'd say you need to be playing it at 70%, 70 to 65% of what you were playing before. Now that might sound like a lot, but and it is quite a lot, because you used to be able to play this thing incredibly aggressively. Again, bouncing a shot there, Lord knows why. Something for Wargaming to answer at some point. This thing used to be incredibly aggressive, massively aggressive, and that shot hit the ground. I'd need to go back and watch that and find out exactly what happened there. That was very odd. But yeah, you used to be able to play this thing incredibly aggressively, massively aggressively. This was probably the most aggressive tank in the entire game, because it could just get away with absolutely anything. It was just, it was out of this world. Anyway, I'm not going to go there. So yes, if you were playing at 100% before, now you really need to dial it in. You can still have the mobile play style. You can still be active. Again, bouncing another shot. What on earth is going on? I don't know. You can still be very active. You can still move around. You can still be the active scout. But what you can't really do is be the... you can't really do the drive-bys anymore. You can't just get away with and one thing I have seen is a lot of people still just doing the handbrake, doing a 180 to try and blat the person chasing them. It doesn't work anymore. You can't do that. And now I'm the last alive on the team against 8. Previously, this could have been a winnable game for the Weasel. The Weasel could have done it. A shot there penned, which is one of 3 shots that have hit me have penned. Anyway. So, 1 versus 7. A good Weasel player on this map, it's possible for a good Weasel player to, back in the day before the changes were made, may have been possible for a Weasel player to win this. But the reason I'm showing you this game is twofold, really. One, I've done at this point I've done 12,000 combined. So good. That's pretty good. But what this part of the game demonstrates is that you can't be the one-man army anymore. And that's what I quite like about this vehicle, because it was never meant to be that in the first place. So we've got a game that demonstrates that you can still be incredibly effective, but it also demonstrates that the Weasel's been reeled in to an acceptable point. I say acceptable, I do think the arm distance needs tweaking slightly, not massively, slightly. But yes, this game, it's not a win, so I'll spoil it right now. This isn't a win. But it's an example of just, you can still be effective. You can still be effective in the Weasel, but you can't be the one-man army anymore. So at the moment, this is me just running around trying to identify where the majority of the enemy team is. I spotted a T-72BU earlier. This Abrams doesn't know I'm behind him. I'm spotted. He get the kill on him. So again, you know, cleaning up, getting the odd kill here and there. You can whittle it. It was 1 versus 8. It's now 1 versus 6. So I've whittled it down slightly. But the more that you whittle the enemy team down, the more you get spotted, the more they have an idea of where you are. And because you don't have the same superpowers as before, it's inevitable you'll get cornered, you'll get trapped somewhere on the map. And that's kind of what's going on right now. I'm getting to a point in the game where I'm running out of breathing room. I'm running out of space to run around. The Marder is closing in. And I think it's at this point that the Marder actually sees me. And I can only imagine on his side, he's probably pinging the map, telling them where I am. I'm now trying to just play sneaky with him here. But proxy, he was close. Well, I didn't realize that would be a proxy. I should have known. But now that I'm spotted, it's game over. They know where I am. I can't run away. I can't do a 180. I can't smack them for 1400 with the gold rounds. It's just a matter of time before it's all over. But that doesn't mean you can't have fun in the process. Run around. Just... It's still a fun vehicle. ATGM hits, 300 damage. What can you do? And I die. So there you go. The Weasel. It's not the one-man army it used to be, but it can still be incredibly effective in the passive scout role and in the put a shot out, relocate very quickly when you've got team support. When you're by yourself, like I was at the end there, it's very difficult. But that's okay. That's how it's meant to be. It's not meant to be a one-man army. So there you go, guys. That is all I've got for this video. If you've enjoyed it, please leave it a like. If not a dislike, subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll catch you in the next one.